This is Eila Allgood with
Michál, Anna.
an Intuitive Talk Story. It's 3 o'clock, October 12th, 2022. I like the numbers. What do you think? 10, 12, 2022?
It actually turns into an 8. I thought about this earlier.
Yeah.
Because it's, it's 10.
You added it all up.
22. So you have
22,
22,
4, 6,
20, 22, actually.
7, 8, 9.
So you have 2,
10.
2.
It's a 1. I get a 1.
Wait, actually, you're right. It's a 1.
2, 4, 6,
It's a 1.
7, 8, 9. It's
It's
a new
1.
beginning.
It's a new beginning
Yeah,
altogether.
Yeah. So new beginnings, everybody, today.
Woo!
Right here, right now.
Yes, I love it. Oh, yeah, I forgot the other two. 22, 22, and the 20.
The 20 before the 22.
Right.
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
It's
Well,
a 1.
so here we are.
On a 1.
Obviously not numerology experts, but using it a little bit.
But
and
we do like new beginnings.
we do like new beginnings, yes, because you can. It's clean slate. Let's start. So let's start today. Oh, I don't need these headphones. I've gotten quite a few comments in town, and I think you have too. Positive feedback about our last show, Ancestral healing, and so let's get going with that again. I think there's more. We talked about there's more to say about that, and yeah. So where would you like to start?
And today we also, if you're out there listening and you listened last week or you're just tuning in now, but you have some thoughts about this topic or you have something you'd like us to explore, please do call in and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Eila's got the number. It's 808-884-5657.
Yeah.
So we'd love to involve you in the conversation and see how we can directly be of service in some capacity. Yes, ancestral healing. So one of the feedbacks I got was, there's all, of course, the things we don't like about our ancestry, but there's also these positive things we really love about our ancestry. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to address that we're not throwing out the bag on the positive things or like, we really, everyone's so nice and kind, and we learned how to be thoughtful. Like, those are all really nice things. And what we're speaking about when we kind of talk about peeling the layers and this kind of thing is it's kind of like if you're a master construction, you're making a house, you already know you want the house to be perfect. Like, that's the goal. That's like what we're doing here. We're making a perfect house. It's got to be beautiful. So when we scan things, we're not looking for the perfections because, that's what it all is. It's beautiful and joyful, and that's your true nature. Is actually all those positive things, is your true nature to be in love and higher. All those positive aspects that give you those like juicy, yummy feelings are higher vibrations. Mm-hmm. So when you're in those, that's like your natural state, because we as divine beings are that's our natural state is love. So we're looking in these processes because we're trying to peel away and remove what's not needed. So we're addressing, like when we look at the house, we're looking for the holes. We're looking for the places where it's not quite, we need to fix that. Oh, what's that over there? Is that a nick? So we're looking for the holes specifically, where everything else looks good, beautiful, beautiful. And we can comment on how beautiful it is too, right? But in this process, we're wanting to address what is no longer needed. We're calling out the pink elephants in the room so that we can deconstruct any programming or trauma or residue that's been left there, so that you just resonate in all those joyful things that have been a part of you, part of maybe your lineage, a part of things you've come from. In addition to that, though, I want to say this about that we also, when we keep going down along the path, right, the ultimate path here is realizing to identify with nothing, because ultimately I am that I am. Love lives here. It flows through us. We are the unity, the infinite source, allowing that to flow and guide through your vessel. So part of this whole game has been our attachment. So what we're really letting go of is stories. There's a lot, like, let's just say, my family's all been doctors. So there's a story there, right? I'm identifying with something that I think categorizes something. I'm a woman. I'm someone, I'm a mother, I'm an uncle, I'm a sister, I'm a brother, I'm a wife, I'm a lover, whatever. We have all these things we identify with. So part of when we look at our ancestral healing, we're looking at peeling away these things we've identified with that maybe categorize, limit, or hold one in a container that doesn't allow you to be the limitless being that you already really are. So we're looking at where these stories have been set in, the story of being a victim, the story of having to always take care of everyone, the story of defending the family, the story of, whatever it is. There's many stories. They can be in all different form. Ultimately, where that unattached and amused phrase I use really addresses the feeling of being, you are the divine God being, just being in a theatrical experience, really. You're like an actor on the world stage experiencing all these different roles, but you don't get attached to being the character in that movie you played that one time. It was a fun part. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It was really cool. Oh, it was so much fun. But that's just a role. That's just one of the things I played. I mean, ultimately, I am that I am.
Well, I think it also takes you out of the now if you're focused on what you did then, right? Like if I was just a great sister. Like, oh, I was such a good sister when I was a teenager. Well, I'm not being in this moment if I keep focusing on what I was feeling so great about myself about then. So to me, it's important to honor those experiences, yet bring yourself back to the present moment. And that goes with the acting. If I played a great role at one point in my life, that you can't live off that the rest of your life. You need to keep create another role, create another, not a role, something different. I do think that because we're human and we're in 3D, there's some value to these different roles that we play, as long as we see them as roles and we don't take it so serious. Exactly.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's part of the game. It's part of what I'm here for. I'm playing.
You're a mom. You're like, great.
Let's play. Let's play mom.
Yeah, you're having a great time. It's
right.
a great experience. All of it, whatever your reality is, you're creating an experience that you're wanting to have, that you're wanting to experience. And so you get to create this reality that you want to experience. It's just knowing what you are creating,
being very conscious of it, and not losing your identity in it, whatever it is.
It doesn't define the core of who you are, the roles we sometimes play. And that, of course, you can reflect all the different places you've been in your life. And I know a lot of elders have reflected with me that are much older than you about the many times that, like you thought you were something, but it changed. Right. And we could get being the top businessman. I was once on top. Right.
Yeah.
And now you're just Joe again.
Right. I was talking to somebody about that recently. So many people's identity has been connected to their profession.
Right.
And then when they either retire or they leave for whatever reason, and they don't have that, whatever that gave them, they can be very lost. And a lot of people die when they retire, and it's because, I believe anyway, it's because they weren't looking at what's next. They were just so caught up in where they were. So there's that need to reinvent yourself all the time.
Right, and we do that by not being attached. That's where that goes in, that not being attached to them, but just enjoying the experiences with unattachment and amusement, right? Just having fun within the experience. So as we get unattached, we can look at how things in our family history may have been influencing us in a way that, gosh, that's not really mine. So ultimately, all the stuff we talk about is really about cleaning your temple. Cleaning your temple to release anything that doesn't serve you, that isn't yours, that is taking any power or siphoning anything from you, anything in any form that doesn't belong to you, basically. So that's what you're doing. You're cleaning house. So it's just, is that really mine, or is that something I was given, and does it serve me? So it's asking those questions in yourself. Is that really that belief serving me? Is this programming serving me? And where does it come from?
I think you make a really good point, which is asking the question and then being quiet so you can hear the answer. because the answer comes to you. It doesn't have to come from anybody else.
That's right.
You can just put out there, this behavior, I just noticed myself doing this behavior. I think my mother used to do this, and I didn't really like it when she did it. Is that where that's coming from? And then just quiet and pay attention and, oh, okay, that's where it's coming from. Well, I'm going to change that now because that's not who I am. That's not how I want to move through the world. Forget about who I am. Who the heck knows who I am? Because I'm none of those things. I am that I am. Right. So it's really about how do I want to move through the world.
Yeah, how do I want to show up?
Yeah.
What behaviors do I want to embody? And we get to choose.
Yeah.
That's what's great. What you just described is that process of self-discovery, of observing without judgment, being able to look at something with a neutral eye and just see what it is so that you can change it. And so that brings up a lot of, what we've talked a lot about, like defense and things that keep us from wanting to look at things. So anytime you have resistance, take another look, look through yourself, push through your own, it's always yourself, your own resistance to go to the next place and look. If your first response is, nothing's wrong with me, or that's not it. If that's your first response, guaranteed something's there.
There's something there. Yeah, for sure.
So the longer you can think on it, the more that will come to you, because then we are engaging and being receptive. So that comes into some of the parts of ancestral healing. So it just came up in my field right there when I said that, being receptive. There are things that keep us from being receptive. And a lot of that comes down to agreements that we've made. Often agreements on small to big. We've made a lot of agreements through our many lifetimes. We make small agreements all the time. So we're wanting to clear all the time agreements that we make so that we can be in a clear field. Because even, I've mentioned this before, but small things, just come in the office, random strangers who are all dealing with themselves and their own energies. You've just invited everything that they're doing into your field, and you just said so. So you're like, we want to, thank you. We sever that agreement, and everything can go now. Thanks. Sever all agreements. Shh. So we're closing doors and closing agreements constantly, because we can make agreements that ultimately start creating restrictions or blocks or entrances for other things. So this whole process is really about learning about your energy and what we really are, and how to manage our energy and understand it. Because if you think about it, you were never really told much about this vessel that you're in. And you were told to look to somebody else whenever something goes on with it. So this is a process of taking self-responsibility and ownership of your body, mind, spirit, and navigating that I'm in charge here and I have the tools to understand how this thing works. And I'm learning how to release things and clean it out so it can run smoothly and I can live in a Ferrari instead of a jalopy.
Well, yeah, and when you said, we were taught how to behave, we were taught education in school, but we weren't taught about what does it mean if my elbow hurts, or what is that trying to tell me. We weren't taught anything like that. And if you're around someone and you get a creepy feeling, we weren't taught. I wasn't. Maybe some people were, depending on how open their families were to what energy is about. But where I grew up in New York, no one was talking woo-woo stuff, so there was not much going on. And, when you were talking about how, kind of paying attention to other people, it reminded me, I was talking to a friend of mine who's 82, and I've known her since I'm 20. And when I was younger, I would observe in her. I was very observant. I'd go out with her and we'd go to a store and she'd be so friendly, and I was so not like that then. I was kind of shy. I was kind of quiet. I didn't smile. I just mind my business kind of thing. And I really liked what I felt in her interactions with other humans. I'm like, I want to be more like that. Now, she wasn't my mother or my auntie or any relationship like that, but just observing that, how can I get to into that place? Because it created such a comfort and joy between her and other people. and I liked the way it felt. I don't know that I had the language of I like the energy of the space, but that's what I liked. And so over my life, I've created that, and that does not come from my ancestors. So as we're looking at who we are and who they were and how we want to be in the world, I feel like we're all related anyway, and we're all mirrors of one another.
Yeah.
So as we see things in other people that, oh, wow, I like that. I like the way it feels when those two people talk to one another. What are they doing? And how can I bring that into my life? Because that feels like next level stuff, you know?
Absolutely. Yes, as we've talked about reflections a lot and reflecting kind of what we're still holding, it also reflects where we want to be,
Yeah.
right? When you're around someone that's holding a higher vibratory field and they're really resonating in those feelings of joy, expansion, then you get reflective like, gosh, that's me. I'm just not feeling that yet, but I want to feel that. That's where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I too have felt that along the path many times of feeling like that's where I'm going. And then I remember going through my spiral of, but I'm not there yet because I got some wounding to get to where I feel like that. So then I have to go through the spiral of letting go of my wounds because I want that. I want to feel that, but I don't right now. And this is in the way. And seeing what's in the way of so I can get there. And that's what we're doing is we're cleaning what's in the way of that feeling so I can embody that. And it's great to have a goal or see the things that you want to embody because then you're moving towards it, right? It's not unlike
it's an intention. It's both an intention and also kind of practical steps.
Yeah, and you're
to
owning,
get there.
This is what I want to be. You're specific about what you're looking to embody versus saying, I know I want something, I don't know what. So you have a direction which your energy can focus on, and then you create it because you're being specific.
You're creating your reality.
Exactly. You're creating your reality, and you're being specific about what you want to create, and you're pulling away specific things that keep you from that thing.
Right.
This new way I'd like to show up and embody. So we get to reflect in all ways with one another because, as you said, we are one.
Yeah.
So we're just reflecting to each other where we want to, what is, and what we want to release and pull
What do you
away.
want to change?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also makes me think of another story. My dad grew up in an environment where they were always yelling at one another. That was how they communicated. They didn't talk, they yelled. And then after he and my mom split up, he got with a woman who couldn't tolerate that. So he had to learn how to not yell when he wanted to talk to her. And it took a while, but he was able to do that. And me watching that, it's like, so even though maybe there's a pattern that we grow up with in our environment, whether it's family or whatever, and we think that's the way we have to behave. Oh, that's just the way I am. I'm just blunt. I'm just obnoxious. I'm just sarcastic. No.
You're not.
No.
You're actually not.
You're not.
It's a learned behavior.
Yeah. So if you want to change it, you just become more conscious and make the decision, I want to change. Maybe you don't know how to change, but it's that decision. That first step is, I want to change, and my intention is to be this, whatever this is.
And then things show up in your path to support that. When you're really asking, it's kind of like just being a hungry student of life.
Yeah.
We're saying, I want to be a hungry student. Yes, I want to grow. I want this. I want to become, I want to embody my fullness. I want to embody love. Yes, that sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
So in the asking, you are creating support for yourself to experience that. So something will come in. And then it becomes about paying attention if you're not used to paying attention.
Yes.
That's like things come in all the time that you discard. That if you were a little bit more paid attention to it, like little things. Maybe it was, so for me, simple things. Like I might be driving, like, oh, I should go by this store or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't planning on going there, but I just feel like I should stop there. Oh, they probably have, maybe I think of something I'm supposed to get or something.
Yeah.
But I go there and I run into someone that I absolutely was meant to speak to. That was an absolutely beautiful moment. I was led there, and I allowed myself to go out of what I thought I was doing in that moment and just go with the flow of being led. And there was the answer that I was looking for something else.
Right.
See, so it shows up in ways that you don't have to understand. Like you don't have to figure things out. And this is, I think, something for our Western culture. People who've grown up in that environment are really, honestly, very much in the the left brain. It's a
Very practical planning.
Left brain.
Yeah.
So part of, we've talked about this before too, but so part of what we're doing here is you're balancing left and right, the right brain, left brain, the matriarchal, patriarchal, feminine, masculine, alpha, omega energies. We're coming into sacred marriage, into balance with one another. So in that process, that left brain wants to just dissect everything, and it wants to ask a lot of questions, and it wants to do all
And
these
distract
things.
you from other things. Yes.
Yeah. And the other side is allowing, it's that feeling of allowing, like just let yourself feel the moment instead of figuring out, well, how's that going to happen? How are we supposed to help somebody? Well, how's that going to happen? Is somebody going to like pull over, or how's that going to happen? No, you don't have to figure it out. Just put it out there and then allow. So that feeling of allowing is important quality here.
It's really a letting go. It's
Surrender.
letting go with the flow. Call it what you
Trust.
like. Trust. Yeah. And not knowing, you put yourself in a not knowing place when you turn off the road where you were definitely going to this place, and now you're like, oh, I just feel like I need to go here. All right, I'll just go. And then something happens there. Well, you allowed that to happen, and you went with the flow. You didn't fight yourself on it. You were willing to change in that moment.
You're willing to listen to your own
Yeah.
inner knowing of your own guidance. So you're really tapping into your own inner guidance and getting in alignment with my higher self. And so that's why we go into the inner space. It's really, we say meditation, but it's energy management. It's taking the time to be quiet and to go within and use and manage your energy. Look at what's going on in my field. What am I connecting to? What am I thinking about? Where am I putting my energy? Where is it leaking? You're doing an assessment. So it's, it's actually kind of logical, but yet it's also, it's not, because you're doing a lot of allowing to let yourself flow into that space. Some people explain this, so if you're someone that if you're in the left brain a lot and you feel like, oh, that's me, I hate meditating, or like that's so hard for me. There's actually a really old, from the 70s, De Silva method is a book, but a lot of people had a lot of success getting into the basically alpha brainwaves is what you're doing when you go into this space. It's the place between sleep and awakeness where you're kind of just going into the field, we call it, this realm of possibility, and you're accessing more things than your conscious mind is really allowed to access when you're just in your waking beta state. It's coming to this the alpha brain waves. So he talks a lot about using counting, which is a great way, counting in general for all sorts of things, is a great way to distract your brain while you go somewhere else, because your mind wants to do something. Well, what do you mean? What's happening? Well, just count. 1, 2.
I do a lot of step counting. I'll be walking, I just count my steps, and after about 100, I'm like, oh, I'm counting steps. Like, I wonder why I'm doing that.
Well, you're doing that because then are you also having your mind is actually, you're allowing yourself to wander.
I'm floating.
But your brain, you're so used to being in the left brain that it needs to do something.
It wants to be
it's
busy.
Giving it a task.
It's got a job.
So it's got a job, so you can allow the other side of your brain to kind of start noticing other things, because that brain's working. Otherwise, it's asking too many questions. And, well, what are we supposed to be doing? Well, we're just walking? What's happening here? So you're giving your brain something to do. So you can open up this field of the right brain. So as a dancer and a mover and a healer, obviously my life has been just full of movement, which has really helped, immensely from I think, that's offset the societal left brain infusion is to move.
Is to move your body.
To move your body and to be in that, because you can't be anywhere else when you're trying to leap, right? Or when you're jumping over a rock on a river, or when you're surfing on a wave, right? Or when you're, you're diving, you have to be fully present. So you're training your brain to get into a field of presence versus that left brain where it's questioning. So getting involved in something that makes you fully involved helps open that field. So I encourage everyone to have something that an activity that helps you create that connection.
Be in that presence. Be in your own presence and be present with whatever it is that you're doing. Be it the dance, the music, the art, the walking, the swimming, the surfing, the whatever. And one thing I'd like to add to that is when the more we are able to kind of float there, we can go to nobody's calling yet. If you want to call 808-884-5657. I wanted to say that there's ways you can practice your intuition. For those of you who might be listening, that you just feel like you have no clue what that looks like. It can be really very simple, like with your breakfast in the morning. You have 3 things laid out. What does my body want to eat? And go towards the thing that your body, and if you're going to put 3 things out, don't put out sugar in there. Just put out, maybe it's blueberries, strawberries, and grapes, and just see which one your body wants and listen to that. Like, that's easy. That's not going to tax you too much, but simple things like that, a little at a time, help you to trust more.
They do. You can, and I'll take that a little visceral if that's like feeling it in front of you so much. You'll start to notice if you practice that if you take items and hold it to your chest, that you can feel your energy either drop a little or get a little more enlivened. Like it actually feels like, oh, that makes me tired, or oh, that makes me feel energized. You'll feel it in your body. Is this good for me? So and so what Eila's talking about is getting in touch with what's in my highest good. Like, what does my system want? Because we're all really different and we don't need the same things at the same time. So we want to get in tune with what my system needs and how can I best serve it, right? So that goes back to cultivating an internal dialogue, which then allows us to get into these deeper spaces where we can peel away layers and get into releasing things from our ancestry and from our own self. I did want to say on the ancestral healing, just to kind of thread that back in, that, just cutting contracts and forgiving the line for anything, and both ways. Like, I forgive myself. I really love the Ho'oponopono. It is so simple and such a powerful way to just go to 0 point. You're really zeroing things out, and it's simple. Just, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, 3 times or more. But that is simple way. And then, the other way around, please forgive me, I forgive you. You're going both ways, because we've all hurt one another in this process. We've all done something where we didn't want to necessarily. We've all fallen from grace, let's say. So that's why we get to zero everything out, because no one has done anything that is too harmful, too bad, too messed up that you cannot come back into the field of unity and the infinite one. And that's really the essence of that. So we're forgiving all things. And as you move then, and just intentionalize that in your meditation field to release anything from your lineage on either side, whatever patterns you see, whatever you don't see, just ask to be shown. The process is really internal. Of course, you can get support from someone who does healing, or someone like myself who does these kind of things. But at the same time, these tools, it's like really just infusing it into your being so you understand it, then you can do it yourself. You have the capacity. We all do. We're just learning how to manage what this is, right? And then there's, sometimes there are some things where that comes in, is there are some hard things. I will say that. I have seen a lot of hard things, and people do need help sometimes pulling things off because, well, it got on you. Think of it that way. If I was strong enough to not get it on me, then I wouldn't need any help getting it off. So sometimes think of it this way. It's just where 2 or more are gathered. When there's more energy, there's more God juice. It's just more battery power to
Yeah.
to move something that may be not in our highest good. So we are peeling away multiple dimensional layers of experiences. So that goes back into what I always talk about, the picking up our pearls, gathering energy from different dimensional time frames or lifetimes or places you've been. And that's what ancestral healing is too, right? We're releasing the whole line from all these places it's been. Something I might be carrying from my ancestors, like pieces of their energy. I'm saying I'm done. The buck stops here. I make a new choice. No longer are we going to be martyrs. No longer is the victim program going to exist here. No longer is I'm not good enough showing up in our line. It stops here. I heal abuse, sexual trauma, disparities, whatever is going on. We address it, you speak it, I release it, I forgive it. And we put in back to living light, back to your original state, and just ask to be loved. So these are processes you can play with, engage in your own field, and just with your own divine essence, because, well, I am that I am, right?
When I was walking today, I had this feeling of calling my ancestors. And I usually give thanks to my ancestors. But today I was walking and I intentionally invited my mother, my father, my grandparents, and those who, basically that, to come and walk with me. And as I was doing that, I was imagining them as they would be now, not as I remember them. I invited them to come as they are now. Mm-hmm. And there was something very, it brought up emotion for me. And it wasn't about like missing them. It was kind of like, yes, like we can be together where we all are now, without the stories, without the who did what to who, without the oppressions. So as we heal, and we're healing the line, and we're healing, we can still connect with them. And I just love the idea of connecting with them where they are today.
Ooh, I love that, Eila. It's so beautiful. And it is what you're doing, because when you think about it, what we're doing is you're releasing things that are stuck in this dense 3D field that are still parts of our ancestors, parts of them. Like, this is your pieces back, so you can be whole.
Yeah, so they can,
and they can be full. So you're setting pieces free. But like, here you go. Here's everything gets to go to the other side of this veil, into the light, its rightful place in the light. Yay! And then we get to all connect us in the light and in the higher vibrations. We don't have to live in this density any longer. And that's kind of the whole gig, is we're moving out of this 3D density where we've literally been, the entire thing has been, the world has been in trauma. That's like the door. The greatest sage is just saying, get out of trauma.
Let's take a break so we can come back with more on Intuitive Talk Story in just a couple moments.
Are you looking for more locally grown, farm fresh produce in your life? Kohala Food Hub is offering farm fresh food subscriptions to North Kohala residents. Abundant bags of organically grown fruits and veggies are available every Wednesday for doorstep delivery or pickup in Hawi. By subscribing to our Farm Fresh Food program, you not only bring healthy food to your table, you also support local farmers. To learn more or subscribe, email director@kohalafoodhub.com or call 808-896-3179. You can also visit kohalafoodhub.com to shop our online farmers marketplace, open Fridays through Mondays. We hope to serve you soon.
Women's Voices on KNKR LP 96.1 FM Kohala with your host Eila Allgood every Monday and Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Please tune in and hear some sensational songs and spoken words by female artists right here in Kohala and around the world. I've been doing this show for 7.5 years and it's still fun. You can also stream it on www.knkr.org or tune in to 96.1 FM.
As we head toward the end of the year, Kohala Radio needs your support. KNKR is your community radio station covering local events and filling the airways with music. Our volunteer DJs play a variety of music, and our talk shows are filled with information about Kohala and the islands. Help keep us on the air. We can only do it with the support of our listeners. Donating to KNKR is an important way to support our unique Kohala community. You can easily make monthly donations, contribute annually, or just drop us $1 or $2. Make us a part of your giving plan. To donate, go to our website, knkr.org, and find the donate button. Or you can give your check to the Resource Center with a memo to Kohala Radio. We appreciate all that you've done for this station in the past, and we look forward to your continued support to keep us on the air.
Welcome back. You're listening to KNKRLP 96.1 FM Kohala. It's 3:35, October 12th, 2022. You're with Eila Allgood and
Michál Anna
on Intuitive Talk Story, and we've been having a lively conversation about the ancestors and ancestral paths and traumas and healing and managing your energy. And where do we want to go next, Michál?
Well, I ended kind of saying the world's been in trauma. To say I don't want to leave it with such trauma.
Yes.
Such drama. But that the joy of that is that we're coming out of it. See,
Yes.
that we're all awakening to realize we are joy. We are love. We are amazing. We've been covered with stuff from all these stories that we're talking about. The history, the what's come before us,
Yeah.
all that. It's been through our DNA, and that's what you're purging. So you remember you have access to all these stories because you have the DNA of the vessel that you're in. So that's how you're accessing the stories, is because I'm in the vessel with all this DNA encoding that has information of the stories. So then I can release those stories and purge them out of the lineage, and then set a new energy in that clears it to zero and turns it back into basically the original state, which is love. Cool part about that is, since time is not linear, it's forward and backward. So that is why all the ancestors, everything goes home. Yay, we're all done. Yay, wash it clean. Because you have the power to choose for the whole line. Like, I choose to stop. Even if somebody else is still engaging in something, that's okay. It's not your kuleana. What is yours is to do your own personal work and make the choice in your own self. Other family members may choose other things, blah, 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 blah. But you will probably see that as you make choices, your external reality does begin to reflect the internal choices you are making, which then brings us into really the creating of your reality, right? So as you release these ancestral threads, as you start to own your own power, understand and manage your energy, you are cleaning the field, and you're drawing into you things you want to be creating because you're more aware of what you're actually doing. You're always creating your reality. It's just that many of us aren't aware of that. But once you become aware of it, now you can focalize that. Now it can become directive and also a fluid expansion of allowing that we surrender to that high heart, allowing source to lead the path, putting our intention forward, and then allowing it to manifest in the highest good.
Well, and as we talk about creating your own reality, I think about what so many of us may not know what we want, and we know what we don't want, but you don't want to focus on what you don't want because you're still attracting that when you do that. What you can start with is what experience you want, what emotion, not even emotions, what kind of feelings do you want, and not be attached to how they show up. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes people ask for, I'll go very basic. Somebody asks for a certain kind of partner in their life. They want a romance. They want the guy to be, 6'2", look like this, act like this, blah, blah, blah. But they're never saying what kind of a relationship they want with that person. What do they want to feel when they're with that person?
Okay, yeah,
you know what I mean?
This is important. So I actually have a manifesting meditation. It's a manifesting activation is what it's called on my channel, YouTube. That's this. which is about drawing into the feeling. So when you are manifesting, it's not a mind like, well, yeah, what you just said, this linear list, right? Like, well, I wanted to have like it's going to be this long, exactly the size, a specific car. It's the feeling you have in that car. Like if it's a car, that's like the feeling of freedom. I love that I could go anywhere. I can be mobile. I feel free and alive. And like, yeah, you want me over there? I'm there. You know, what's the feeling that you're wanting from the experience? You know, romantic part. I want to feel those sunset beaches. I want to feel that experience of feeling love and feeling juicy. So you're drawing into the feeling of what you're wanting, because that's what you want to create. And what Eila's saying is then be unattached and amused
to what it looks like when you get it.
Like when it comes, because it may not be 6'2" and blah, 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 but it's going to have the feeling of what you want.
Right.
So if you can be more, it's like be discerning, stay open, and realize, don't be, like, oh, well, that's not it. You can block stuff out because you'll miss it, right? Because you're expecting it to look a certain way. So that comes into just a simple, expectation. Right. So you have to drop all expectation in the field of creation. That's a good one. Drop all expectation in the field of creation.
Expectation. I'll write it down.
Write
Expectation.
It down. So that you can truly create. So that you can truly create what you're wanting.
Yeah.
And receive that feeling.
Yeah.
So that's important. So you're always drawing into these feelings of it's getting to the core, right? We can focus a lot, and that this is a reminder out there. Nobody's out there. So we can focus on other people and think, well, if they would stop doing blah, blah, or if so-and-so would do this, then I could do that. Nope. And we're wrong, because it's always ourselves. We are in control. I'm in the driver's seat. I have full charge of my reality, and I get to make choices, and each of us has that same setup.
Right.
So we're all in charge of our own reality and responsible for ourselves. And the more we take responsibility for ourselves, we create this beautiful place that we all really want to live in, which is where we're caring about one another, we're mindful, we're respectful, we're caring for our each other, for the land, for our surroundings, and we're living in a field of unity, a field of love and support, compassion, harmony. Right? Doesn't that sound good?
It does sound good.
Thing to have?
Well, it's a lot better than blaming somebody else. Oh, she's always this or he's always this, and then I'm a victim, and that doesn't go anywhere. That's not going to take you up the vibrational chart. You're going to be miserable, and if you don't want to be miserable, if you want to create a more joyful life, then look at what do you want and not what you don't want. Don't hang out with the people who are miserable to you, or don't take it. Say, no, you can't talk to me that way.
Right.
You have
ask for what you want.
Yeah. Here's what I need.
You shall receive.
Right.
And if it's not meeting your needs, exactly, like go where the vibration is, where you want to be. Back to that, where are you wanting to be?
Yes.
If you don't want to, you can't sit in the gutter and expect to experience paradise. So you have to actually get up and try and go somewhere else, right? This isn't working.
Take some action. Yes, take some action.
Take action.
Yeah, it isn't all woo-woo. You can't just sit and say, I want this.
You got to do something with it.
You got to make it happen.
So you're listening. That's part of that's where we got that balance coming in. Sacred marriage. We have our omega energy influencing us to allow, intuit, listen. But then we need to activate, radiate, take steps, make motion towards what we want. So, for instance, if I what I do all the time, if I want plants and food growing on my land, I can't just sit at home and think about the plants growing. I got to go out there and plant those seeds.
Yeah.
So even if you do something, just a little something, so I can't spend 5 hours every day doing that. So, but I always think, gosh, just give a seed a chance. I just ate a papaya. Let me just go put those seeds in the ground and see what happens.
Yeah.
If a little something each day towards your goal, and before you know it, you've got a garden. Before you know it, you've got an abundance, because it's happening because you're putting your energy towards it. So remember, energy flows where attention goes. So we do need to put our energy towards things, and that goes back to energy management. Well, what am I putting my energy towards? I might actually be putting energy towards things I don't actually want.
Right.
Maybe I need to cut the line.
Yeah.
And then I'll have more energy to put towards something I do want, right? Am I letting energy be siphoned from my vessel to some limiting thought, belief, idea based on something I've been told from somewhere outside of myself, because ultimately that's what everything is. There's very little that you actually know. If you think about it for a minute, most things somebody told you. The television, the computer, the news, that's all third-party information. What is something you I mean, even the fact that this is like my phone is black. Somebody told me that that's black. Somebody told me that at some point in my journey here to start calling this color blue. Mm-hmm. That may not be what it actually is. It's just that what I call it.
It's what we agreed as.
So
it's like a society
it's a
that's called
that
blue.
We agreed on, right? So we don't really, and so what you really know is your experience. You know your experience of something. Mm-hmm. I can't, like Eila and I can be in the same place and have completely different experiences. So we only know our experience. That's what's real for us. So if we can draw more into what do I really, like what is my experience of things versus what is something out there telling me to believe or think, your opinions will change just by drawing into more of what you've experienced yourself and what maybe you want to experience, right? So opening those fields all the time, tearing down limiting ideas and thoughts every day, stock that mind and tear them down.
So as we're talking about creating your own reality, I'm also having like this vision of also being present with what your reality is, kind of in a Zen way, and having an attitude. So what comes up for me is I saw some trees and they looked like they were dying and they needed water, and I didn't want to water them. And I thought, well, I can have a grumbly attitude about watering the trees, or I can change my attitude about watering the trees. So I got the hose and I considered it like time in nature with the trees, nature, me, the water, watch the water flow into the trees. The trees are going to grow now. And so sometimes we have things that we do or that we need to get done, and our attitude, if we shift our attitude about it, we do create a reality that's more joyful without having to change our entire life. Like it doesn't always require you have to move to another state, or you have to break up the marriage, or you have to, it can be just start with changing your attitude about where you are and looking for the joy. Look for the joy wherever you are, whatever's happening. When you start looking for it, you start feeling it, and then it kind of starts bubbling up wherever you are. You don't have to make these huge external 3D changes.
Totally. I so agree. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. You brought up gratitude earlier, and it's really a foundation of gratitude. So have an attitude of gratitude, and it changes your game. So for me, what I do all the time, I say, the other one I say all the time is thanks and praise. I just be, I look at the trees like what you just said. I've experienced that many times. I didn't feel like that. Okay, well, I just go, okay, thanks and praise. And I grab the hose, thanks and praise. Okay, you guys are looking beautiful. Oh, you're going to be great. Oh, you're just going to be so happy. I love it. You just like kind of adopt this other attitude. Oh, the floor is not swept yet. Thanks and praise. So grateful I have a floor to sweep. At least I have a floor. At least I have a floor to sweep. And I want to keep my space nice because this is my temple. I'm so grateful I have a space to keep nice. Thank you. Let me sweep this floor really well. It's a prayer. Everything we're doing is in essence a prayer. This is your life. It's your life all the time. It's as much about the small moments. It's actually more sometimes about those small moments, right? I mean, have you ever had just really random small moments? We all do have all these little tiny moments with ourselves that are so rewarding and gratifying. And they're simple. They're simple things because the essence is really about the simplicity of our being ourselves and knowing ourselves. This, again, is a movie. The movie and the simulation here is just for you to understand yourself. That's what it's really about. So it doesn't have to be
so you can
fancy.
work. It doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
and you can work from wherever you are now. You don't have to change, your entire life except your attitude. Yes.
To change the external versus
there
trying
to
change something externally. You just back to allowing. If I'm showing up and being more kind, and that's just happening, then, maybe if I always saw you before and I was mean and now I'm just being kind all the time, you're going to change how you are with me.
Right.
It's just going to
if I used to talk like stink to you, and then you stop listening and you start shifting that energy, I'm not going to do that with you anymore because you're not joining in anymore.
Right,
so
I'm not giving you juice.
You're not giving
You're
it.
not
No.
getting my goat.
Nope. And then so we move that, and I either move away because I want to go find someone to do that with, or I say, oh well, this is kind of fun. Let's see where this is going.
And I shift too, right? The other person shifts.
So now you've both shifted into a more positive place in your world.
Unattached and amused. As you do your work, other people around you have the opportunity to do theirs. That's their personal will, free will choice.
Right.
So as you shift and grow, you don't have to do anything other than be true to yourself, and things will either rise to meet you around you or they'll fall away. So it's the unattached process, right, of being unattached to that. Just allow what feels right for you, and and at the same time, like there's moments like when it comes to agreements with a person, for instance. I'm not to say like, well, you're gonna, if you grow, you just leave your partner. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there are agreements we make too. Well, we've made an agreement with my partner, like we're going to support one another even when you're having hard times, right? You make agreements. We're not always on the same page, but we have really strong foundation of what we are on the same page about. So that's about, are your agreements laid in a strong foundation? That's really looking at, that gets into whole other topics. But agreements we make agreements and we honor them. And back to like everything is about what agreements am I making? Where am I putting my energy? That's really actually just energy management, right? So if we look at it from that neutral point, we get real clear and we can make real solid decisions from that place of gratitude that Eila's talking about, that place of just enjoying what is, enjoying what I have in front of me today, just the simple tasks.
And that I think the letting go, that's my message for this week, because I've been dealing with something in my body that it's just been frustrating me, and I've been trying so hard to fix it, so hard for it to be better. And the other day I just got like, take the steps to get it better, but let it go. Stop with the expectation that it's going to feel better immediately or yesterday or tomorrow. Just let it go. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were sharing some difficulty they're having with a partner, and I said, you don't know where it's going. You don't seem to have a clear decision about this relationship. Can you just let it go and just be with it? There's nothing harmful happening to anybody. They're just not really loving the whole thing right now.
Yeah,
so
just be with
it's
what
not great.
is.
Just be with what is.
And do your own work.
Right. And that's what she wants to do. She wants to do her own work. I'm like, do your own work.
Then do your own work right where you are. You don't have to go anywhere to do your own work.
No.
You can do it right now.
And maybe that person will step up and start doing their own work. You don't know.
Doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
What matters is you're there for a reason.
Right.
So until you've gotten all your pieces and whoever the person is does no longer triggers you on any level, blah, 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 and you've zeroed that all out, you've got work to do. You're still there for a reason anyway. There's a reflection if you're feeling those kind of things, like how you're saying.
Right, and if you run off to somebody new,
you're just going to recreate it.
You're going to have the same problems with the new person. Yeah, it's anyway. There was something I wanted to bring up because of what we were talking about earlier with ancestors and stuff. My kid's father was adopted. And as we talk about ancestors and patterns and families, I think about him because, he has no connection to his biological family. And he was raised by a family and he has no connection with them. And I just think there's a lot of people out there who were raised by somebody else that wasn't part of their biology. And I feel like that's another layer of the whole ancestor thing. How to look at that, because there's the DNA, but then there's plenty of people who aren't connected to their DNA, their historical DNA.
For sure. And I think that, this is such a deep topic as we, go down into that. People, of course, resonating and finding, it's kind of like finding out everything you can and then letting it all go. It's like making the mandala and then sweeping it clean.
Yeah.
Like for myself, I can say, like, I I have deep history with my lineages, and I do have connection to them. But at the same time, even though I know they influence me, like my whole lineage of curanderas on one side and plants and these people who, their lineage in the Apache and the Toltec and the Atomi, and I can get into these different facets of my heritage and lineage, which are definitely parts of what created this vessel. And at the same time, back to that beginning, none of that's still me, because the greater story
Right.
is I am that I am. Those are they're like maps. Everything's like a
Yeah.
template that I'm in, and I'm enjoying the template, but I'm recognizing that it's a template. So if you're not connected to your heritage, haven't had a direct experience, everything we've said still applies, because it's about you drawing into yourself and recognizing what's really like me, like this as a soul experience, and what template am I in? Like, what are these kind of like parameters that I might be dealing with? Oh, seems like I might always, do I really feel like I'm not good enough? Or is that like some sort of map or template that I'm actually in navigating? So you could think of it that way. Like, things aren't personal, actually. Most things aren't personal. Nothing's personal. That's kind of the other part, really important part. Take nothing personal. That's
Yeah.
number one, because you can't get anywhere if you're taking everything personal. So you tear all that away and you go, well, what's the template? If you get real honest with yourself, you're like, well, you know what? I actually do feel like I'm enough, and I don't think that's mine. That must have come from, I don't have any connection to my family, but that must have come from somebody else, because I don't think that's my dig. So
Yeah.
you then can let it go.
Yeah.
So see, you're recognizing just
It's
what
getting
is
more and more
mine.
conscious.
Yeah. What am I really? And you're peeling away things that just aren't yours, period.
Right. It doesn't even matter where they came from, whether
Right.
it came from grandma or it came from your second grade teacher. Like, it doesn't
Right.
matter where that part of you or that part of your behavior came from. You just know you want something different in the future. You don't want that anymore.
And even if you don't have access or know your family, and you are doing ancestral healing, you still are helping to heal that lineage. Even if you don't have like conscious recollection or memory of that lineage, as you do that and just release patterns, you're releasing pieces that were associated ancestrally that will go back to to their rightful place in the light, which just helps everyone, right? Think of it that way. Everything's got to go home. Everything's got to go back to light. It's been in separation. So we're bringing everything that's been in separation back into its rightful place in the light. For it is just one thing, right? So that's what we're doing, collecting all the pieces, coming into wholeness. So if you, again, kind of leave you with this thought that everything's holographic. So you are the infinite yourself. So you are a holographic image of the infinite. So you represent the microcosm represents the macro, right? So as you or an I, each of us heals our own vessel and become whole, which is what we're doing, collecting our pieces, setting things back to the light. And so there's no threads, no holes. It's just all just the infinite light. We are bringing everything back into unity. So as I bring that one piece and I reflect the whole and you reflect the whole, everything's bringing the greater whole back into the one. And ultimately, that's what we're doing.
Well, that's a beautiful ending to our show today, Michál. Thank you. It is 3:58, and we haven't talked about our next show.
But we're going to do that soon. And we were just talking a little bit to get kind of excited. If you have thoughts on this, I'd love to hear about this, actually, because this is a big topic. We were kind of just we are thinking that we will discuss next time false light paths. So this is kind of big, actually, and some of you may not like what we talk about on this.
Well, actually, if you don't like it, it's because it's triggering something for you.
Right, exactly.
And that's
which
okay.
is why you should listen. No shoulds. But it's always good. I was listening to something the other day, to end on one more thing, but was basically talking about how critical thinking is the hallmark of intelligence, right? It's the base to be able to put anything on the table and look at it from a neutral point of view.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that number one, take nothing personal.
Yeah.
So if we all make it a point to let's go into intelligent thought, that it's a concept. If you think of it as not being part of you, you can talk about anything.
Yes.
and see all points of view. So to be able to see all points, opposing views of a topic is the only way you can actually have a real answer. If you're not willing to see an opposing view, well, then how can you really know that your answer is correct? You have to be willing to look at everything.
Right, and if you are able to look at all those other possibilities and hear those other concepts, it'll help you find your truth. Because you'll
Exactly.
say, well, those 5 things didn't resonate for me, but the 6th one did. That feels right to me.
Right.
And we're all in our own movie and own reality, therefore you're in charge of your truth.
And hearing any opposing truths would only reinforce your own truth if that is actually the truth.
Okay, that's confusing enough. We're going to go now.
All right, we're out of here. We love you all.
Yes.
Blessings. Living light.
Until next time. Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.